Welcome to the program. I'm Mike Viqueira. Joe is off tonight. I'm coming to you from Capitol Hill, where they talk and often debate about free speech. Tonight, Joe Rogan is apologizing for a conversation about COVID vaccines he had with a doctor on his podcast. We'll ask two radio hosts, is it their job to defend everything their guests say? Also, banning books is becoming more common in our cities, towns, and school districts. Later, you'll hear from an award-winning children's book illustrator whose books tell stories about black children who struggle to fit in. His appearance with students was canceled. Struggled to fit in, I should say. But we begin tonight with a developing and alarming story. 42-year-old Allison Ekren from Kansas appeared in federal court in Virginia just across the Potomac River here just hours ago. Tonight, she's charged with joining ISIS and leading an all-female battalion. Prosecutors say Ekren wanted to recruit operatives to carry out an attack here in the United States. Kelly Meyer, our Washington correspondent, joins us now with more. Kelly, this is a late-breaking story. It just happened this afternoon. We learned first of it. The first we learned of it was this weekend. What can you tell us?
Well, like you said, just hours ago, she appeared for the first time in Virginia in federal court here. 42-year-old Allison Ekren. She is facing charges of providing material support to a terrorist organization. According to the Department of Justice, she traveled to Syria several years ago in 2014, and she started recruiting and planning with the terrorist group, with ISIS. And that includes training a group of ISIS brigade of women, training them how to use AK-47s, suicide belts. She also trained children how to use these assault weapons. And according to witnesses, she also shared her plans of how she wanted to attack a U.S. Campus, college campus, and a shopping mall, detailing how she wanted to leave explosives in a parked car in the basement and then detonate it with a cell phone from far away. So she detailed all of this, and she is now facing up to 20 years in federal prison.
ISIS. It's been a while since we heard about a homeland security threat from ISIS. This is startling information. What's next in the legal process for this woman?
Well, she's actually set to appear in court again on Thursday. She's using her own, or she's using the appointed counsel, not her own counsel, and she's being held now by the U.S. Marshals. We will wait to see what happens next, just in the next few days there, Vic.
All right, Kelly Meyer, thank you very much. Great reporting. Now to Joe Rogan. Tonight, the call to ban him from Spotify is getting louder. The massively popular podcaster is apologizing, kind of, and Spotify is pledging to update the way it handles COVID information, as more famed artists of yesteryear say they want their music taken down. First, it was Neil Young who pulled his music from the platform, saying the Joe Rogan Experience, as the podcast is named, is hosted by Spotify and it spreads COVID misinformation. Young's now been joined by others, among them another giant among baby boomers, Joni Mitchell, the singer-songwriter behind the 1969 hit Both Sides Now and Free Man in Paris. And Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band guitarist, or one of them, Nils Lofgren. Today, Rogan is responding. On Instagram, he's responding on Instagram to all of this today, saying he simply tries to have interesting conversations and corrects the record when needed.
I am going to do my best in the future to balance things out. I'm going to do my best. But my point of doing this is always just to create interesting conversations and ones that I hope people enjoy. So if I pissed you off, I'm sorry. And if you enjoy the podcast, thank you.
This is all starting after Rogan featured vaccine scientist Robert Malone on the show. He said many Americans during the pandemic have fallen into something he calls mass formation psychosis, that's not known in psychology at this point, and can be led anywhere, even by people who lie. Well, two guys who are certainly not under any kind of hypnosis and would never lie to us, Mo Kelly, host of The Mo Kelly Show, and Tony Katz, host of the Eat, Drink, Smoke podcast and radio host on WBIC in Indianapolis. Tony, let's start with you. Let's be honest here. He seemed to explain himself, but not quite apologize. What's your take?
He doesn't have to apologize. Look, the work I do on WIBC in Indianapolis, I host 2 shows a day. I'm having conversations for 6 hours a day. It is possible to get something wrong. The argument being made here is one of Joe Rogan purposefully pushing what they call misinformation. But if you listen to the start of his video, he's very clear. 6 months ago, you could not have said masks don't do anything. And today you can. Even though masks don't stop COVID, certainly cloth masks don't stop COVID. You'd have to be wearing an N95 for hours at a time, which normal people simply cannot do. When I say Joe Rogan has nothing to apologize for, he has nothing to apologize for. He's introduced great conversations into America, and the more conversations, the better.
Okay, Mo, let's hear a little more from Rogan. Here he says, misinformation one day, as Tony was saying, can be truth the next.
Many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact.
Okay, do some people just not like what's being said? Or isn't it his job to be provocative, to spark a discussion?
His job is to be interesting. I don't know about being provocative. I actually agree with Tony in this. He has nothing to apologize for, but I am a capitalist. I side with capitalism. So if Spotify says, hey, you are injuring our business model, you're taking down our stock price, as he did, then I'm okay with Spotify saying we're going to need to put up some sort of a warning or some sort of monitoring of your content. So I'm going to side with the podcast provider here, because Joe Rogan is an employee to the extent of they bought his podcast for $100 million. And if he's harming their bottom line, then I say Spotify is okay with doing whatever they need to do to protect their business interests.
Okay, so Tony, Rogan says he'll try to get different opinions, put them back to back on his show to structure it that way in a more kind of traditional way. But is that good enough? Joe Rogan is huge.
Not for the haters, Mike, right? Not for the peoples who want to destroy. Not for those folk at all. It will never be good enough. They don't want anybody saying anything different than what they want said out there in the public sphere. This is some of the sickest stuff. This is as cruel and demented and anti-American as we have possibly ever seen. It would not matter if Joe Rogan had Dr. Fauci on and literally rubbed the man's feet while screaming, "You're a genius." Yeah. It wouldn't satisfy these people. They want him gone, and I don't think Joe should go anywhere. Unless he wants to.
All right, it is a capitalist society. This is a private industry. Spotify's trying to make money. They're worried about losing on one end and gaining on the other end. It's always a balancing act. Do Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and even Nils Lofgren have the right to take their money, or demand that take their money, take their songs and their work and all of their artistry off of that platform, Tony?
Oh, if you're asking me, they can do anything they want. It's their music. But they should understand they are bullying and threatening and intimidating and engaging, possibly, if you can call it the act of extortion, against Spotify. And Spotify could say yes or no and deal with it however they want to. And I believe that if Spotify were to get rid of Joe Rogan, people will then act in kind as well.
Okay, Mo, you're in the music industry. Some of these artists have already made their money. I mean, they were popular 40, 50, 55 years ago. They've clearly faded from the mainstream a little bit now. So for some of them, it doesn't matter if they take a hit on Spotify. And to guys like me, Neil Young and Joni Mitchell are like they're immortals. But could they be looking to make one last hurrah, one last set of headlines, or is that just too cynical?
I don't think so. I think that would be a little cynical, because Spotify and streaming more broadly does not bring in a lot of money for these artists. Spotify does not create any real intellectual property. So I'm going to side again with capitalism, and in this case, the musicians, saying that, hey, if I don't want to be represented by Spotify in this way, I'll take my marbles and go home. In history, we talk about America. History is rife with examples of, you want to call it bullying, Tony, I would just call it a coercion or even pressure to have America bend a certain way. And America will find its own natural equilibrium. We've seen this in capitalism for many, many years.
Well, we shouldn't think that coercion's a good thing.
Okay. So I've watched you guys talking with Joe. It's been a pleasure to talk to you in person tonight. Mo Kelly, host of The Mo Kelly Show, and Tony Katz, host of Eat, Drink, Smoke. Thank you both.
Pleasure.
Now, from attempts to ban podcasts to attempts to ban books, a school district outside Houston canceled an appearance by author and illustrator Jerry Craft. And his Newbery Award-winning book, New Kid, was pulled from library shelves on the eve of Black History Month. after some parents objected. The complaint? The book taught critical race theory. The companion book is called A Class Act. Eventually, both the book and the event were reinstated at the school, and Jerry Kraft joins us now with more on his story. Mr. Kraft, thank you for joining us. You faced a ban at that Texas school. You faced a ban. What, from your point of view, is driving these sorts of actions across the country?
You know, I think that kids want to learn about new cultures, and there's a sense of empathy that they get. And I don't think that their parents want that, plain and simple. I think it's all the parents. I never get complaints from kids. It's always, well, not even always parents. In this case, it was a select group of parents that did not want their kids to be able to identify with other people.
Okay, why now? Why are we hearing from parents now? I mean, this is a story that's really taken the country by storm over the course of the last several months. Why do you think they are raising these objections now?
You know, that's the part that's most confusing, because in a time when there's a global pandemic, we should be doing everything possible to make these kids have as much of a normal life as they can. And when you have a kid who can see themselves in the book, like I hated to read as a kid because I never saw myself in the book. So now that there are so many people of color and all different, you know, from all different backgrounds writing these books, and kids can see themselves, you would think that we would encourage them. So right. I am absolutely confused by that as well.
Yeah. Well, you know, race is probably America's most sensitive topic. That's not a new story. But does it help by taking books like To Kill a Mockingbird, ironically, about racism in the South, out of school studies? That also faced it. To Kill a Mockingbird also faced a ban.
No, you know, I think that if you are teaching the kids along with it, you know, if you just give it to them and don't teach them what they're looking for, you know, and again, that was the curriculum that I had growing up. I didn't understand what I was even supposed to be looking for. Right. Or enjoying it. It was just forced on me. And as a result, I hated it. I read nothing but comic books. So I tried to write the books I wish I had when I was a kid to get more kids to read. So I am very confused by what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a suspicion among parents today that books teachers choose can be anti-American propaganda, if that's not overstating the case, or too sensitive for students to bear. And, you know, if you take that line of thinking, it doesn't leave too many choices. And that's a big gulf between parents and teachers and even students, many of whom do want to read this material.
Oh, yeah. I mean, kids are on TikTok 18 hours a day. So you mean to tell me that what they see with social media and all these other places and the video games, and now they're going to pick on the books like, oh, that's what's going to corrupt them? This is where kids go to see themselves. You know, this is their private moment, enjoying themselves.
And Jerry, having faced this ban now, as we talked about at the top of this segment, what do you tell parents? What is your governing philosophy in these matters? And really, when it comes down to it, how do you defend yourself and your work?
You know, I got a text today from a teacher, and she had a book tasting for her kids, and someone wrote specifically of my book, New Kid, this is almost like looking at my life. You know, and that's the biggest defense that I can do. I am doing books where kids can actually see themselves. And I don't have to defend anything more than that. This is for the kids.
Jerry Kraft, author and illustrator of New Kid and an award winner. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Super Bowl is set, and how many people had this matchup to start the season? The Cincinnati Bengals and the Los Angeles Rams, both of them featuring quarterbacks looking for improbable storybook endings. That's ahead. And don't adjust your TV sets, folks. This is real, a brand new sport to tell you about. It's professional pillow fighting. I guess this was inevitable, right? How do you even train for this? And don't forget to follow us on social media at Joe Donlon TV.
I think the Chiefs will win, Joe, because, you know, they're a tough team to stop. If you have Mahomes needs to score late in the game, he's the kind of guy that can get it done for you. The other game to me is just totally random.
That was the top odds maker at DraftKings, Johnny Avello, from the show on Friday. And it just goes to show you, even the best get it wrong sometimes. And after another exciting playoff weekend, it will be Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals taking on Matthew Stafford and and the Los Angeles Rams. For Burrow and the Bengals, a 150-1 long shot to make the Super Bowl at the start of the season. All they had to do was win their first playoff game in 31 years, beat the #1 seed Tennessee Titans on the road, and then take down NFL MVP Patrick Mahomes on the road at that stadium that holds the Guinness record for the loudest crowd roar in recorded history out at Arrowhead in Kansas City. Now they wonder why they call him Joe Cool. For Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford, yesterday's win came on the one-year anniversary of his trade from the Detroit Lions, the woebegone Detroit Lions. Stafford was drafted #1 overall in 2009, way back when, by the Lions. But despite playing 12 largely productive seasons, he was never able to win a playoff game. Now he will play in the Super Bowl at his home stadium in Los Angeles. For more, I'm joined by the host of the Get a Load of This podcast. Well, get a load of that title, Russ Salzberg. Russ, the Bengals won 4 games last year, and now they're in the Super Bowl. Does this give hope to fans of teams like the Jets and the Bears in Chicago?
Well, you also forgot the Giants as well. Listen, it's a great story going from worst to first. But listen, Joe Burrow is just a tremendous story, and he's got the coolness and the moxie of, I don't want to compare him to Tom Brady. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But he's got that coolness and calmness. And I think people are also forgetting one thing else. He might be in his second year, but he's also 25 years old. And, Mike, a lot of guys come into the league at, let's say, 21 and 22. And football, more than any other sport, is a man's sport, especially you big guys and tough guys. And there's some maturity with Joe. He initially went to Ohio State, graduated in 3 years, transferred to LSU, did spectacular there, so much that he won the Heisman Trophy. So this is not an accident. I mean, it's a great story going from no place to the Super Bowl, but he's got some big-time credentials, quite a resume.
Yeah, I mean, an amazing performance, and all throughout the playoffs and all throughout this year, really. And if he wins, he's the first guy that would ever win a Heisman Trophy, a national championship, and a Super Bowl. So this man is clearly on a roll.
And just a tremendous, it's not just his physical attributes. When a coach is looking and a GM, when they're looking at talent on the draft board, they're trying to look for the entire package. There's probably no other position in sports more important than the quarterback.
Right, it's leadership,
and
right?
He's got it all, Mike. He's got it all.
Yeah. So let's turn to Matthew Stafford now. From rags to riches, 12 years in Detroit, doesn't win a single playoff game. I mean, the Detroit Lions, what a sad story there. Now he's playing in the Super Bowl in his home stadium in Los Angeles. It's just a great moment for Matthew Stafford. Talk a little bit about, the kind of quality quarterback he is and did not get an opportunity to exhibit that in Detroit.
There are a lot of guys through history who haven't gotten that kind of chance. One that comes to mind is the patriarch of the Manning family, Peyton and Eli. Right. Archie Manning, I remember Archie Manning coming out of college, and Archie Manning could have been better than his sons, but he was playing on a dismal New Orleans Saints team and never had the opportunity. Fortunately, you have Matthew Stafford finally gets the opportunity. Listen, everybody knew he was a great quarterback. That's why the Rams traded for him. And, they traded for him for the sole purpose of right here, what we have now, of him leading them to the Super Bowl. And he's done that. And I'll tell you what, should he lead them to the Super Bowl, I think it'll make him a Hall of Fame, not to the Super Bowl, with a Super Bowl victory. I think it'll make him a Hall of Fame quarterback as well.
Here, everybody wants to know, is he going to retire or not? A big bonus coming in February, $15 million if he's still on the roster. If I were him, I'd probably wait for that bonus before retiring, or, does he just not need the money? Or, what's your take on Tom Brady? Is he going to stick around, or is he going to call it quits?
Well, I don't really know. My attitude is, and I don't want to say this cavalier, like I don't care. He's got 7 rings. He's the greatest of all time. He's earned the right to do whatever he wants. But what just happened, Mike, is typical of what is going on, not in the sports world. It's what's going on in the news world as we see it today. Reporters are more interested, and it's embarrassing being in the journalism business. People today are more interested in being first than being right. You know, my very first news director once told me, said, Russ, even if your mom tells you she loves you, you have to verify the story in our business. And I can tell you, Mrs. Salzberg, my mom, let her rest in peace, loved me dearly, but he was right. And people just want to be first. And, you know, if I'm wrong, so what? But if I'm first, then everybody's going to know about it. That's what's wrong. What was the big deal to rush? Why couldn't we just wait? But I want to be first.
You're absolutely right.
I want to be the guy to break the news.
We need to return to a world where you needed two solid sources, right, Russ? Anyway, Russ, thank you very much. The host of the Get a Load of this podcast. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Mike.
All righty. 2 women found dead on the same day. Why detectives related the case are now on leave. Tonight on NewsNation, Prime, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. An urgent meeting at the Pentagon this week. The defense secretary wants to know, why is the U.S. so far behind Russia and China when it comes to so-called hypersonic missiles? How long until we catch up? Answers coming up. We're also getting our first look at a new F-35 fighter jet that crashed into the South China Sea last week. Look at these pictures. How concerned should we be about this? Welcome back to the Donlon Report. Happening this week, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will push the nation's top defense companies to speed up their development of hypersonic weapons. This will happen during a high-level meeting later this week at the Pentagon. These missiles travel in excess of Mach 5. That's 5 times the speed of sound. And they're maneuverable. And even more alarming, the United States has fallen behind China and Russia when it comes to hypersonic missile technology. U.S. Space Force Vice Chief General David Thompson admitted as much. Quote, he says, we're not as advanced as the Chinese or the Russians in terms of the hypersonic program, adding, quote, we have a lot of catching up to do very quickly, end quote. Joining me now to talk more about this is retired Marine Intelligence Officer and CEO of Global Risk Intelligence and Planning, Hal Kempfer. Hal, thanks very much for being with us tonight. Tell me, why is the U.S. so behind on these hypersonic weapons?
Well, Mike, behind is kind of a relative term. There are certain aspects of hypersonic missiles, the speed, certain characteristics of physical flight, that the Russians and Chinese have just really jumped ahead, and they put a lot of effort into it. But I will say this: there are other things that deal with the electronics, if you will, the navigation, some of the targeting aspects, which I feel pretty comfortable we're pretty far ahead. Although some of the brute force characteristics, we've got a little catching up to do.
Right. So the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, speaking of catching up, calls this a, quote, Sputnik moment. He's invoking the shock 60 years ago when America suddenly discovered and saw that we were losing the space race to Russia. We caught up that time. Can we do it again?
Mike, I feel pretty confident that we can. We have the capability. I interface with the aerospace industry on a regular basis, and I feel that if we put enough effort and certainly enough funding towards it, we can catch up pretty fast. I also know there's some things we have within the hypersonic realm that will not just catch up, will quickly surpass their capabilities.
So what is the threat? I mean, if other countries, at least temporarily, have this technology, and the U.S. is somewhat behind, at least for the time being, and I hear you saying that the United States can catch up relatively quickly. What is the threat if these other countries, potential adversaries, have hypersonic weapons and we're behind?
Well, the threat is we don't have what I would call a robust anti-missile defense system. We have some capabilities. They are placed in certain areas where we expect that missiles will come from. The problem with hypersonic missiles is that they can change direction in flight. So potentially they could literally skirt around at extremely high speed around our missile defenses and then pop into our country or to whatever target they hit, and we simply just don't have what we need to intercept them. Although with that said, the speed and other things there, intercepting these missiles is a huge problem in and of itself, even if they come in through the most direct way. So that's the problem.
Right. Right. And, you know, we have the Theater High Altitude Defense, THAAD it's called. We have the Patriot missiles that have been around for a long time, since the first Gulf War. These missiles, I hear you telling me, would elude those weapon systems. So the Secretary of Defense is calling all of these defense companies on the carpet at the Pentagon. What do you think he's going to tell them? How long will it take for the U.S. to develop and deploy these weapon systems?
I think what he's going to tell them, he's going to give them a very short timeline. They're going to dedicate a lot of funding to it. And what he's going to do is put some, we've done this with other weapon systems in the past, put some very clear timelines and deliverables on when they have to achieve certain aspects of what we want. Some of it will be speed, some of it will be maneuverability while in flight. Some of it will be taking our advanced technology already in terms of targeting and avionics, if you will, to bring this together so that we can build a system that surpasses them. The other thing we're going to look at, though, is defense. And I think defense is going to be very much a big part of the discussion.
Right. And tell me about the payload that these missiles can carry. Well, I mean, how much power do they pack in terms of, you know, we're talking hypothetically here. I don't want to alarm anybody. But how much destruction could they cause? Could they carry a nuclear payload, for example?
Nominally, yes, they could carry a nuclear payload. I don't think that any of the missiles that have been tested so far, I haven't seen anything that says they have that weight. They wouldn't put a nuclear missile in they wouldn't put a nuclear warhead in a missile for tests, but they do things to simulate the payload of a nuclear weapon. The other thing we have to consider is targeting, and that's so difficult with nuclear weapons because when we talk about ballistic missiles, it's not just the range of the missile; it's the ability of the warhead to come through the atmosphere and actually hit the target. It's very common for warheads, for the missile itself to get there, and then if it's not a very advanced system, and we've worked extremely hard on this, the warhead can literally skip on the atmosphere and miss its target by quite a bit of distance, hundreds of miles sometimes.
Okay.
So that's another thing. Hypersonic's a little different, but it's possible, and they got to work on that.
All right, very quickly, Hal, I want to turn to North Korea. We've seen more missile tests in North Korea, the busiest January on record for Kim Jong-un. I'm like 2 leaders behind in North Korea. Should the U.S. be worried, or are they just flexing their muscle and, again, playing this game of intimidation with the West and the United States in particular?
Mike, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. Yes, they are playing a game of intimidation with the West, and this is how Kim Jong-un makes himself relevant. In fact, I remember saying some time back with all the attention on the South China Sea and China and Russia and Ukraine that it's inevitable that North Korea will do something just to bring some focus back onto themselves. We should be concerned. I think the real place to be concerned is in the West Pacific. And I know in Guam, we're very concerned, and there's been a lot of discussion about significantly increasing our anti-missile defense system within Guam and some of our other West Pacific bases and installations.
Okay, the U.S. Navy scrambling to recover a $100 million stealth fighter jet that crash-landed off the USS Carl Vinson, an aircraft carrier, ended up in the South China Sea. Before China can get its hands on this technology, the U.S. is racing, U.S. military and other assets, racing to get to the crash site. Hal, if we can't keep this, I believe it's a $78 million airplane now, from crashing, a stealth jet, a long time in development, had a lot of production problems, a lot of delays. What does that tell us about our military readiness to deal with the rising power of China? This did happen in the South China Sea, after all.
Well, it did happen in the South China Sea. Planes do sometimes crash. We had an SR-71 Blackbird when I was on an intelligence tour in the West Pacific that also crashed near the Philippines. And I can tell you it was a full-court press getting assets down there to identify the debris field, to get the debris, recover the plane. That's the same thing you're seeing here. There's some things we may hear about. I'm sure there's a lot of things going on right now, surface and subsurface, that we won't hear about. But the U.S. does not want China to get their hands on that technology. There's some very advanced weapon systems, intelligence, ISR, reconnaissance, surveillance systems in there. They just don't want them to get that, and, of course, the stealth technology itself.
We should mention, Hal, that there were 7 sailors on board, including the pilot of that F-35, All seem to be okay. 4 were treated on board ship. No one died in the accident. Retired Marine Intelligence Officer Hal Kempfer. Thank you very much, Hal.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Right now, we're in the middle of a battle, and I'm willing to do what I got to do to fight for my fellow employees in the state of Washington, as well as the rest of the nation.
Okay, that was former Washington State Trooper Robert LeMay, who appeared on this show back in October after his final dispatch went viral.
Wish I could say more, but this is it. So, State 1034, this is the last time you'll hear me in a State Patrol car. And Jay Inslee can kiss my
Now, sadly, just a few months later, Robert LeMay has died from COVID-19. The state police, in a statement, say LeMay served with honor with the Washington State Police and will be long remembered and appreciated. He was 50 years old. Tensions between police and their communities are high, but is the media fanning the flames? Tonight on Dan Abrams Live, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. It's difficult to forget the amazing images from the funeral of NYPD officer Jason Rivera on Friday. Well, tonight, someone lost their job after complaining about the street closures for the funeral. We'll play you that rant coming up. Something we've covered extensively on this program, police appear to be under attack. It's already been a tragic year for police in 2022. 2 officers fatally shot in New York, another in Houston, and another in Los Angeles. And we're only 1 month in. But a new op-ed by Newsweek argues we shouldn't abandon the defund the police movement. It just needs to be rebranded. Joining me now for more, retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey and retired Anne Arundel County, right here in Maryland, Police Captain T.J. Smith. First, what do you think, Sergeant Dorsey, does the defund the police movement need? And I'm assuming you're going to say it's not rebranding.
Well, listen, I mean, when you say defund the police, it means different things to different people. And so while I don't support defunding the police at all, the problem is that I think there are errant officers who are engaging in misconduct and who are not being held accountable. And while every loss of life is tragic, let's not pretend that any of this stuff is new. For those who like statistics, according to the Gun Violence Archive under Trump, there were 276 officers killed or injured in 2018, 298 in 2019, and 347 in 2020. So this isn't anything new, but police sheriffs, commissioners, and chiefs need to do a better job in bridging that gap between community and police.
Right. Okay, TJ. Polling shows that phrase, defund the police, is unpopular, and there are a lot of people here in the Capitol, Democrats in particular, moderate Democrats, who feel as though it cost them a lot of votes in the last election. But the policy to redirect police funding is popular. What's your sense of what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, the branding is horrible, and that's why it's caused this much grief. And the politicians who continue to perpetrate that language they're actually the ones, I think, that make the streets a bit more violent, not just for police officers, but for their communities, because the bad guys have been given a signal that we're kind of on your side here. And oddly enough, that's not what the case is. You can walk through communities, and not only Baltimore, but in Chicago and Minneapolis, where people who are seeing the violence day to day want police in their community, but they want the police to respect them, and they want to have that type of relationship. And they'll say, we don't want to defund the police, but would they rather have more mental health services and things like that available instead of police? Yes. So articulating it has been a huge problem.
Right. So, Sergeant Dorsey, do you think it's an anti-police sentiment that we're seeing here? It's contributing to the recent rise in violence against police? Or is this symptomatic, at the end of the pandemic? Well, I'm saying the end, 2 years into the pandemic, going on our 3rd year. Is this something symptomatic of larger problems or anxiety? I hate to indulge in armchair psychology, but there's a lot going on out there, a lot of unrest, a lot of people who need help and are feeling the mental health implications of what we've seen and experienced over the last couple of years.
I think it's a compilation of both. And while I don't say no to anything, certainly having mental health funding added to police departments would be helpful. But listen, for real, when you're in the midst of a traffic stop or a domestic violence call, we don't have the time to freeze frame and call in a clinician. When you stop somebody who just ran a red light, you may not necessarily know that this person is bipolar and having an issue. And so training is important so that officers know how to deal with these individuals appropriately.
Right. So New York police held a funeral service, obviously very somber, a lot of pomp and ceremony for Detective Jason Rivera the other day. He was shot and killed in the line of duty, as we know, but one actress had an issue with the ceremony. Okay, she's mad because they shut down the streets to have a funeral. I believe it was at St. Patrick's, right in Midtown Manhattan. So what do you think of that criticism? What does it mean? What does it say about attitudes towards the police? TJ.
Well, I mean, that's just ridiculous. And, you know, I'm sure the Sarge had this experience as well. If we had a traffic crash investigation and we had to shut down the road, people complained about that. But every family deserves the respect that these officers got. And, you know, we just had to bury Officer Kiana Holly of the Baltimore Police Department, who was killed and ambushed at the end of 2021. She was just buried just a couple of weeks ago. And this week, we unfortunately have to bury 3 Baltimore City firefighters who were killed in the line of duty in a fire. And when the roads are shut down and the long processions happen, and you see all of the people of all ethnic and racial backgrounds gathered as one to salute their heroes, because they know at the end of the day, the overwhelming majority of the men and women who put on those uniforms are heroes. That's what really matters. And we have to work together to bridge these gaps. But we can't let some of these narratives overtake reality, especially from people who do not live in these communities that they're saying, let's remove police from. They aren't living there suffering the trauma that a lot of these individuals are suffering on a day-to-day basis.
Very well put. And we all, I think, want to come back to a time when people can respect a funeral procession for a fallen officer. Retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey and retired Anne Arundel County Police Captain TJ Smith. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On Balance with Leland Biddard starts at the top of the hour, and Leland joins me now. Leland, hi. We're hearing new reports out of China with a warning to Olympians protesting at the Games could lead to prosecution. That's of American athletes and athletes from all around the world when they are inside China. You had Bob Costas on the program last week. It was a great interview. What did he say about the upcoming Games?
Vic, great to see you. Great show so far. Costas really has been at the forefront of taking on the Chinese. It goes all the way back to 1996 when the Chinese actually complained about him talking about their human rights violations and their issues in Taiwan. He's continued to hammer that point. And you bring up a very important point, which is American athletes are now under the threat of prosecution. The Chinese are terrified of anyone saying anything about them over the next couple of weeks. Here's Costas explaining why.
The Chinese regime, objectionable as it was in 2008, is much worse now. And the genocide and the human rights violations are worse now. And it's impossible to ignore it. It's a giant elephant in the room.
And Vic, you just have to imagine what it's like for U.S. athletes now in the spotlight, and the idea that if you say something that the Chinese don't like, you may not be heading home, gold medal or not.
I mean, it's amazing that U.S. athletes and athletes from around the world are going to walk into that situation, and we're going to be watching very closely for the next 2 weeks. Thank you very much, Leland. Look forward to the show. Well, a vintage Corvette sells for a lot more than expected at auction. We'll tell you how much and the good cause that money is going towards. Well, you can eat all the frog legs you want. We can always grow more. That's what scientists from Tufts and Harvard University have successfully gotten frogs to grow back their amputated legs. In their experiment, they used aquatic frogs, the same kind you may have seen in aquariums or at your local pet store. The researchers made silicone caps, which resemble tiny thimbles containing drugs to reduce inflammation and help grow blood vessels. Then they amputated the frog's hind legs and put the caps over the wounds for 24 hours. And over the next 18 months, many of the frogs grew new legs that were fully functional and almost as good as the originals. The results suggest frogs and maybe other animals have dormant regenerative capabilities that can be triggered into action. And after last year's chicken wing shortage, it's nice to hear that frog legs won't be joining that list anytime soon. Okay. It was expected to sell for over $1 million, but the first ever 2023 Chevrolet Corvette Z06 70th anniversary edition ended up going for well over that price, and it was all for a great cause. The sports car sold at auction to Rick Hendrick, founder and CEO of Hendrick Motor Companies and NASCAR owner, for an astounding $3.6 million. 100% of the proceeds went to Operation Homefront Charity. The national nonprofit's mission is to rebuild strong, stable, secure military families so that they can thrive in communities that they work so hard to protect. Chevrolet has been supporting the charity since 2017. Aside from donating money, it has given 7 trucks to the organization. Well, that's tonight. Our American Snapshot Operation Homefront tweeted out this thanks to Chevy for donating the vehicle, saying that seeing the crowd so energized in support of our nation's military and veteran families was inspiring. That's going to do it for the Donlon Report. I'm Mike Viqueira, on balance with Leland Vittert. Leland Vittert is next.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.